Hi
It's
everyone,
going.
and welcome to our QuickMail session today. We are going to talk about how QuickMail can speed up your daily processes and make life more efficient for you, because that's what it's all about. And Sandy's on with me. This is Sandy and Cheryl, and Sandy's going to be watching for questions in chat. So if you have questions along the way, please type those in, and we'll answer those as we go. As well as if it's just comments and things you want to add in the chat session, she'll be watching that section as well. So go ahead and say hi, Sandy.
Hello. Yep, I'll be watching, and just like Cheryl said, let us know if you have questions.
And me are Cheryl Simmons, and I am here to walk through QuickMail. We are very excited about our wsTOOLS that we built, and this one we know is providing great value to the customers that are using it. So let's get started, Sandy.
All right.
First slide here. Whoop. All right, so you can see my first slide now. All right, well, let's talk about what is QuickMail, right? Because if it's going to make your life easier, what does it do? Well, overall, QuickMail allows you to send your invoicing and work order reports through email to your customers, and they are attached as PDFs. And just even in your invoicing windows, when you get all your data entered, you're ready to go, you're going to have an additional option up there where you can just choose send QuickMail, and it will, based on your settings, bring in all the information from a template to who are you emailing, all the dollar amounts, and it'll attach your invoices based on your naming system that you determine in Setup, and off it goes. You won't have to, print it out, put it in an envelope, or save it to a PDF locally and go send that email afterwards as a second step. So all cool. So we'll walk through all of that today in a demo. But again, just the highlights down here on the slide that we have up, sending copies saved as attachments as well. So again, that's the invoice, but you can also send the additional attachments. So if you had a call summary report that, from a mobile tech that you're using, and you want to attach that, or an inspection report, or further detail that supports the invoice that you're sending to them or supports the work order, you can attach those from WS Docs storage, as well as even out on your network, because there's other locations too that you can pick up those attachments as well. We also provide templates when we send out the QuickMail product. And these templates are where you can define, dear so-and-so, and it can pick up, the customer information and plug that in there for you. And it'll put in, your invoices attached, and it'll have, your invoice number, the dollar amount. Again, you can edit all of these templates that we ship out. But again, you can add, your logo information onto there, your signature from your company, those kind of things to make it personalized for your company. But it gives you a great working start. And lastly, just to highlight here, setup windows. And we'll walk through the whole process and talk about setup again at the end. But I want to just say, as we go through the process, several things you can determine how you want QuickMail to work for you. And it'll start out with even what windows do you want QuickMail to work in? Because again, it might be who has access to certain windows, and maybe you only want, from a process standpoint, you don't want emails sent out of your invoices until they've been posted, right? You have the capability to say, these are the windows that will support QuickMail for sending out those invoices, as well as the naming convention of what you want your invoices called when they go to the WS Docs table, as well as to your customer. You'll determine that naming convention. And then, as we all know, there are several SSRS reports for invoicing, whether that's on the job cost side or service side. And so you can determine which of those reports you want to use per customer, and even down to the per customer location. Or just if you always use the same, invoice number 2 for all of your customers, you can pick that at that high level setup, and it'll be sending that invoice template onto your customers. So again, lots of flexibility, very powerful in what it does as a product, and as again, lots of flexibility in the setup. And we'll talk about that as we go through the demo as well. There are a few prerequisites when it comes to QuickMail, and so I just want to make sure everyone's aware of these. I'm using it with Dynamics 2016 and 2018, and I know Dynamics 2016 is coming to an end of life here, so again, it'll be 2018 plus. and with the key to act side as well, because again, service and job cost are the two different areas that you're going to be able to use QuickMail in. You have to have your SSRS reporting services set up as well as mapped out in your WS reports table. And those two go together there with the key to act signature side SSRS reports. And email configured within Dynamics GP. So we do have a dependency there of being able to use that engine that comes with Dynamics GP for sending out documents. So if you're not using it on the GP side, we can certainly help you get that set up as well. But that's something that we'd want configured before we brought QuickMail into the picture as well. And then the last thing is it saves those attachments, those PDFs that we talked about as your invoice, into the advanced document management system. So we need that configured as well as allowing PDF files to be saved within your document management system. So with that extension defined so you can open up those documents. So those are the prerequisites. So I think we are ready to dive into a demo. Sound like a plan, Sandy?
Sounds good.
All right.
No questions so far.
Okay. So Dynamics should now be on my window. Do you see that, Sandy?
Yep.
Okay, that's a good start. So let's take a look first at job cost. So I'm gonna pull up here, comes on my other window here, sorry. The invoice in window within job cost. And I'll go ahead and pull up the invoice I've already entered. All right. So this particular invoice I entered earlier for one of my current jobs. Ready to go. I've saved it into the batch. And again, you'd want to make sure all of your data is valid, your taxes are calculated, all of that when you're ready to go for QuickMail. Because again, this is going to be, captured, sent into a PDF file, and sent out to your customer. So under additional is where you can access this QuickMail option. And again, once you purchase the product and install it, you'll notice all these QuickMail options based on which windows that you have turned on. So we'll go ahead and choose QuickMail. And what it's doing now is going out and getting the SSRS report I have specified to print, as well as for the customer information, you can specify in the internet information page the email that it should be using for this particular customer, and then bringing that template information all together as well. And sorry, oh, it's over here on my other window. Bringing that all together into a window right here, QuickMail email. And so all of that document information up on top. Here it brought in the email address from that internet information window for this particular customer, as well as we get into the template. Then again, you can have different templates all the way down to the different customers, or again, using one general template. Subject lines, these are all coming in from setup, but you could override them at this individual basis. So like if you are resending out an invoice because someone said they didn't get it the first time or can't find it, you could put a specific subject line, resending invoice or something like that. And then here's your template information, pulling in your invoice information and dollar amount. So you can see that matches here on the window. Down here on the bottom, this is that naming convention coming in from setup that we have for particular the job cost invoices. And it puts in here the job cost invoice number. It's a source. This is saying it's a job cost invoice. And then in my case, it's putting in the date behind it. And that's right here for the date of the invoice. So here it's already selected, and that means it will be attached to this invoice when I send it. If you had other documents, like that inspection report or even the safety checklist, any of those type of things that you want to send with, if they're in the WS Docs table, they would be listed here, and you could select them as well. With this invoice already being selected, if you wanted to look and go, okay, I want to see this before it goes to the customer, you can click on the view button here as well, and it'll open up the document that's attaching. So then you can see, okay, yep, this is the invoice that is going to be sending over to the customer. Yep, I agree with that. That looks good. And away it goes, right? For that view button. Okay, so we are selected. We'll keep that selected. Also, we talked about you could go get other documents that aren't associated with WS Docs table. And that would be, something on your local network, local hard drive, something that you've saved off that you want to attach them. So here, just going on your local space, clicking add, and you could add those attachments down here. Or if you added something incorrectly, we also have remove options over here as well. But those would be sent as attachments to this email that you're sending. All right, so,
Cheryl,
oh yeah, go ahead, Sandy.
someone is asking, can you have more than one email address?
Absolutely, good question. So yeah, so mine is coming in from setup, but if you want to add more email addresses to it, just in general in setup, you could just, have a semicolon in between and then type in another email address. I'm going to use you, Sandy. Yes, and you can have multiple email addresses, just make sure they're separated out. And again, within your internet information page, you can have these email addresses default in there. And you can have multiple set up in there as well. All right, good question, Sandy. Thanks for bringing that up.
Sure.
So at this point, the invoice is ready to go. It's attached, and we would just click email, and away it would go. And then that would be sent off to whoever was in that to line. And using, a lot of customers ask a question of, do people set up a specialized mailbox to send these from? Probably. Typically they're going to the accounts payable person on the other end, but if you have a special, service department that you want to send them from email address, you could be using that email box, or they'll show that they're coming from the person who's doing the work, in this case, from my email box that I'm sending them. So keep that in mind, and it will go into that person's history as well from an email perspective. So that was the job invoice entry window, and the same works for the project level billing invoicing window as well. So you can do QuickMail from either one of those two on the job cost side. And again, you have the invoice pulled up, and you go under additional and choose QuickMail. So that's how the job cost side works. And we mentioned it works for both job cost and service. So let's hop over to the service side, and there's a few differences on the services side that I want to talk about. And again, Sandy, you can hop on in if you have any questions or comments along the way.
Okay, no more so far.
All right. So on the service side, I have a service call open here that I've been working with, and I am going to click on the invoice button. Pulled this up earlier. Okay. So I do have some cost posted on here so that it would calculate some billable amounts for us, and saved it off into a QM demo batch. So it's our QuickMail demo. So again, all of our data is in, we're ready to go. We've calculated taxes as we should, those type of things. And again, under additional, we can choose QuickMail right here. And it will do just like on the job cost side, it's gonna go out and get that information. So here, I'll go ahead and click QuickMail. And it's going out and getting the information off of our setup, right? Bringing in the template, bringing in our email addresses. It's looking for other attachments that we have and bringing those into our invoicing window as well. And once it has all that data together, then again, we can click to send that invoice. Sorry, it's on my other window here. Talking away. Here we go. So this was on this particular invoice, right? Right here, you can see the invoice number for this customer and location. The email address is defaulting blank for us at this point because we don't have one entered for this particular customer in this particular location. But you can add it on the fly, just like we had earlier. So let me go ahead and do that. The one thing on the service side for email addresses is we can have them pull from the internet information page like we talked about with job cost, or we can also have them pull from the roles section. So if you're a customer who uses the roles and you put in, accounts payable person, and this is the role that they have, and you can say, that's the role I want it to get the email address from. So anybody with that role of accounts payable person, you can have that email pull in automatically from those roles. So again, that's a choice in setup. If you want to use roles, the emails from the roles, or if you want to use the email from the internet information page. Again, flexibility for the setup portion. As we talked about the templates that come in, and again, you can change the template and it would update the information here, and those are coming in from setup. As well as here, I actually have something in particular set up for this customer, so that's why it's bringing in a subject line of customer 203, because that's who we are. And this particular customer is set up to use invoice 2 versus invoice 1, like some of the other customers. And again, that's all based on the setup information. Here, oh yeah.
There is one more question. You mentioned earlier when you were doing the slides that users can edit the templates. Someone asked, can you also add more templates?
Yes, yep. You can copy them. You can make your own templates of what you want. The only thing is in setup, you would want to make sure that you put them out onto a particular customer or in general setup for the documents. And then it will pull that information in for you. You got it. Yep, and then right here, that's where that template is feeding that information in from. Here we have our document, and again, the service invoice, and this is from setup, determining, how you want those to be renamed or have that naming done. Because you remember on the job cost side, we had the invoice number first, and right here on the service side, I have the invoice number last. And again, all choices that you can choose, and you can have just the invoice number if you only wanted one segment to be on here. Again, that's controlled by your setup. Our dates were selected, we're ready to go. Again, your view button allows you to view this invoice before you actually send it off, as well as, again, the other document option. And again, this is where we would see if you had a call summary or other attachments onto the service call, that you could take a look at those. And again, once you're ready to go, you can click email, and off it goes to the email address listed here. So that's how you do the email invoicing at an individual level, one invoice at a time. But with service invoicing and actually maintenance invoicing, because you don't do maintenance invoicing typically at one at a time, we also have some batch windows. So we're going to jump over and take a look at those as well. But I do want to point out one little thing here. This is on this service call that I just did the invoice for. Haven't left that window yet. So here you'll see there's the document attachment in your list. And I'll open that up. And again, this is the invoice that we just were sending for that service invoice that we took a look at. So it attaches that onto the service call, where again, you can go in and view it, display it. If you had other ones on here, again, you could have sent those with the invoice as well. So adds that onto the document list as soon as you create that email and get that going. All right, so let's talk about doing these more than one at a time, because I get, you're creating invoices, and you got potentially hundreds of them that you want to get out and get sent out to customers today, right? And don't want to do one at a time. Even though you were probably in those invoices windows, you'd validated everything, make sure taxes was correct, got all the information, cost information that you needed on there. The fun thing is you can do these, once you have all that data in there correctly, then you can go in and run the actual process here. So we're going to go into the service invoice process. Pull that over here. And this is going to allow us to be able to do documents more than one at a time. So let me bring these up. I'll go without history here first. So here is the transactions that I just limited to customer 203. So we just have a few of them to look at. If you remember, it was this invoice here, this last one, 148, that we just took a look at, right, and just did. And so here it's bringing it into this window based on the filters that you put on the top. Obviously, that invoice has not been posted yet, so that would still be considered in the work table, as well as it was already sent, right? We went through the process, generated the email, and clicked that portion to send it. So that's where the sent items, and it keeps track of which of those documents you have, invoices you have already sent. in a separate table as well. So if you're curious, you can always query that table to see what documents are sent, or come into here as an inquiry as well and take a look at that data. So let's say we wanted to send all 3 of these invoices. You know, the customer's like, hey, I can't remember, I can't find these. Could you resend anything that I have, you know, from a particular date range? And you could come into here and actually click and select all 3 of these. And it will go ahead and you can click process, and it's going to send all 3 of these all at once. And again, this could be, you know, for a whole batch of transactions. So everything you entered for today, if you have them saved in a batch with today's, you know, name on the batch name, you just type in that batch name or look it up, and then it would pull in everything that's sitting currently in that batch, and you can mark all of them and send them off. Or if you know that there's, you know, 20 out of 22 of them need to be sent electronically, you could, you know, bring up the full batch, mark 20 of them, and send those 20, and then the other 2, if you needed to manually print them out or manually invoice them one by one, you could still do that in this window. So if you select here and click process, it will send all 3, it'll send 3 emails with the different attachments for each one of these. Or you can just select this email button here, and this is going to create the document just as we had seen it as we were in the invoice window. That's what it's bringing up for us, and it would be emailing just that one document for us. So again, some flexibility in this window of, you can do, if you want to say mass emailing, marking and sending, you know, several invoices at one time, or one email, you know, kind of like this is your working to-do list that you have in front of you. And again, you could do one at a time, just like we did in the invoicing window. So it gives you some flexibility there. One thing to note in this window is it does bring in your email addresses and subject. So if you have a blank email address, I would actually get an error if I made my selection and click process. It would come back and say, you know, processed, please fix errors. And what we have to do there is then you could hover and it would tell you your email address is missing. So you'd have to fill in your email addresses, and then you could select and send these documents from here. But I mean, this window is powerful in the sense that you could come in and see, okay, yep, I've sent these documents. Are these documents posted yet? You can see that here as well. And then are they in the work table? Are they in history? Because then it will give you certainly many more documents to work from as well. And again, if they've been sent, that's fine. You can resend those documents. It allows you to resend documents that you've sent previously. So mark all options here as well. So if you have, like we said, 100 in this list, you can mark them all and then come back and unselect the ones that you didn't want to send. This window also gives you the ability to sort your columns different ways. So you'll see, you know, this is 64 is on top, now 64 is on the bottom, so descending order. So again, flexibility in how you want to use this window and get the data for the window. Any questions there, Sandy, before I pull out the next one?
Nope, not right now.
All right. So that was service invoicing. I want to pull up also the maintenance invoicing window, which it looks very much like the service invoicing one. Again, filters at the top. Filters are a little bit different based on maintenance invoices that you're working with. But here, let me bring up like 205 is my customer that I always use on my maintenance side here. And here you can see our scheduled payments, our maintenance invoices that it had been creating for them, pulling that data in. A little different here, we have an additional column because of master contracts. So if it's a master contract, it will indicate that here, that based on a master, the billing was done. So it would actually be for multiple contracts. So again, we wanted to identify that so people knew that portion, as well as you see the posted and the sent options. And again, if you select here on the left-hand side, multi-select, it would create and send, you know, in this case, 3 emails with the 3 different invoices attached to it, or you can do them one at a time, again, using the email button selection here as well. In this window, again, works just like the service invoice that we talked about. Again, you'd want to have your email addresses in here. Again, if they're in your setup, they will default into this window. Mine just happens to, I pick some customers that don't have them set up in there. But getting that data pulled in so that you can, get those emails sent as promptly as you want to.
Cheryl, there is one more question now.
Yeah.
In these batch windows, this one and the service one, can you edit any of the information in the scrolling window?
You can, yep. So like right here, that's Sandy, she keeps asking questions. So there's some emails. Yep, and again,
That'll teach me.
you could do multi, I'll put both of us in there now. Yep, you can enter in email addresses here. And again, the subject lines will default in, but if you wanted to change it and say resending, right? Because like we just said, the customer asked for us to resend the invoicing, so you could change and override the default that would come in and say resending invoices, and
Very
then
cool.
and have that one selected there. And again, we talked about these are all stored in a history table of what we're sending. So you could have that data pulled in through a smart list and those type of things as well. It's all accessible. And I know, Sandy, we're getting down to the last few minutes, but I do want to run through setup windows just really quick. Want to show a couple of things. I know we've talked about them a little bit, but let me get into that. So here is the general setup window for QuickMail. And the first thing you'll notice is these are the windows that you can do the QuickMail invoicing in and turn the options on. So they're inquiry windows as well as the standard windows that you do your functionality in. And again, if you didn't want QuickMail to happen until after things are posted, you might want to do them in the inquiry window versus in the actual window. Again, that's all a user preference. But I'll pull up the service call one here. And we'll take a look. So first off is the enable QuickMail option. And this is how you would turn it on for those particular windows that you want to use. And then we have the ability to select which reports you want to use. So this is in the service call window itself where you'd be sending out work orders. So within Key to Act, there are several work orders that you could choose from a format perspective. So here you're saying, this is the one I wanted to use. So work order 1. Next couple of questions get into, WS Docs and where it wants to store for document attachment. So here you can select, do you want to store to the network or to the database? And you probably have a standard if you're using that. So again, you would just select that standard here. If it's a network, you're going to put in the path down below of where you would be storing that data. If it's stored into the database, you don't need to. It knows that based on your GP setup. Here's the option to use roles. And if you select to use roles, then you would say, this is the role that I want to have my email information come from. And that's where we talked about using that accounts payable role. If you wanted from the email to go always to the accounts payable at your customers. If you don't use roles, then you don't need to use that. And again, we'll come from the internet information page to get the information for your email addresses. Here's where you specify the description and file name of your attachments that we're going to store. So here for this particular one, I have it set up to use the document number. So it's not going to use segment 2 or segment 3, but you can see you can use type, date, etc. As well as a separator. You can choose which separator you want within your document names. And then the templates, Sandy, you talked about, specifying the templates. It'll come from here, but again, you can always override it if you're doing one individual email at a time. You can specify that template. If you're doing the mass where you have selected like 10 emails to go at once together, you don't get those options. It'll automatically send your emails for you in the background. And so we're wanting to make sure that will pull directly here from your setup or from your customer location setup. So wanting to make sure that data is accurate in here as well. So here again, for all documents, logging you'll typically only use if you're having issues and we ask you to turn that on. So the other piece, and I indicated that you can specify these settings per location as well, customer and customer location. So I'll show that real quick. Go back up under Setup, QuickMail, Customer Location Setup. And I'll do customer 205. That was the one I was using there for maintenance. You guys saw that. And you can do this location setup per location or all locations together. So for us, you'll see that this one's got a few different locations, but I'm gonna bring out the warehouse location. Actually, oh, let me do customer 203. I think I have some set up in here for him. There we go. So for customer 203, and I get down to location specific of warehouse, that's where I see for service invoice, I wanted to do some special settings. And again, this could be per window that you do special settings, or, you know, if only the service invoice that you want to do something specific for, that's the only document you have to put in here. But you could do any one of those the report windows that we had in the setup window. And here, yep, you know, I'm using a different invoice. I'm using invoice 2 versus invoice 1 for other customers or other locations. Again, I could do the naming different, as well as this is where that subject line you guys saw come up earlier in the demo, customer 203 invoice 2. I could put in a special subject line, you know, just in particular for this customer, as well as template. So again, it's just some flexibility of if you need to stay at that higher level, just that all documents are going to use the same SSRS report, same template, that's great. But if you need that flexibility of getting down to customer or even customer different locations, it gives you that flexibility to set it up that way, which is good. All right, Sandy, how about questions now?
Nope, not anymore right now. We're
All right.
good.
Okay, well, I just want to hop back to QuickMail, to the slides here, and just talk about, again, overall QuickMail as far as speeding up your daily processes and getting those emails out to your customers as fast as you can, because I know the sooner you can get your invoices out, the sooner you can get paid, right? So this is all good for everybody. So QuickMail is meant to give you that some time back in your day to get other things done. But one thing that's exciting that I want to share with everyone as well today is there is a promotion going on. So right now you can get 28% off to all tools, those for GP and for Key to Act users. So 28% discount in celebration of Dynamics GP, announcing that it's continuing support all the way through at least 2028. And so that's where the 28% comes from. And again, it's on all wsTOOLS through September 28th of this year. So if you are looking at any of the tools, want to see them demoed, want to just talk through what do they do and how can they make your life better, give us a call here at Implementation Specialists. And I have that on the next slide here. Our phone number, you know, our sales team would definitely reach out. You can drop them an email as well, or check out our site. It has tons of like 2 to 5 minute demos as well out under wsTOOLS, where you can see kind of our tools in action, where we demo them and talk through them as well. But we would love to show them to you more in depth, talk through any questions that you may have, as well as with QuickMail, if there's any questions that you have there. So before we wrap up, Sandy, anything else from you?
Nope, not right now. That's it for me. So yeah, looks great. And those new batch windows are awesome.
Excellent. Well, Sandy, thanks for joining us today, as well as everybody else. We appreciate the questions, and if you have follow-up questions that you have that we didn't get to today, please reach out to us, as well as if you have more data and other tools that you want to take a look at, certainly give us a call. I appreciate your time today. Thanks, everyone, and have a wonderful day. Thank you.